Hey, how you doing? This is RJ. So today I'm going to talk about how 2024 is going to affect your entertainment over the next year and a half. Because if we take our cue from history and we look at Donald Trump's presidency itself and what happened to entertainment during that time, I think we can positively say that there is going to be an effect on your entertainment leading up to the 2024 election. But before we get there, I just want to let everyone know that there are 3 links in the description, and I'll try to put them in the pinned comment as well. They are for my graphic novels. The first one is for Thomas Valiant. It is a second chance campaign where you can order everything from that original campaign, including first edition books, which will be signed by me. Those will start to be shipped out as soon as my campaign goal is met. You can order my second graphic novel, The Valiant Heroes, which will be shipping the end of summer, early fall. And you can also sign up for my next graphic novel, which is a return to form for low fantasy in the vein of Conan the Barbarian, called CROM the Destroyer. And you're looking at some of the spectacular art from my graphic novels in the background. So if any of that sounds or looks appealing to you at all, click on those links in the description and go on over and see if my graphic novels are for you. All right, so back to my topic. And I'll have to say right off the bat that I understand that I'm really not very good at predicting the future. And I've come to realize that predicting the future is a fool's errand. But at the same time, being prepared for the future is the task of a wise man. So how can you do that? How can you be prepared for the future when you don't know what's going to come? Well, it goes back to the thing I'm always talking about, heroic virtue. Because those virtues in Western civilization have been numbered and ordered very specifically for the last 3,000 years. They are prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. And the first one of those that you need is prudence. And what is prudence? Well, it's good decision making. And how do you make good decisions? Well, you base that on right reason. That is to say, you take your reason and you put it in accord with reality. And that's the thing. If you become good at making good decisions, that is to say, if you become prudent, it doesn't matter what happens in the future. You don't have to predict what's going to happen in the future. You're going to make good decisions no matter what happens. You take that and you add to it the logical way of looking at history, which again emerges from right reason, which is to say you look at the past and pick out the patterns of what has happened in the past according to human nature, and which one of those will probably play out again in the future, and you're golden. So why did I start there? Well, I started there because you're going to see the exact opposite of all of that over the next year and a half leading up to the 2024 election. Your quote-unquote progressive people don't believe in any of that to begin with. They don't believe in human nature. They don't believe in virtue. They don't believe in studying history. None of that makes any sense to them at all. For them, everything comes down to power politics. That is to say, how much power can I accumulate and use? And the best way, of course, to accumulate and use it is through society, is through the political. And the thing about that is the fact that if you have a normal, healthy society where people are actually following their human natures, doing things like pursuing life, liberty, and happiness, well, then you're going to have a situation where politics is indeed downstream from culture. But if you have a society like we have right now, where these quote-unquote progressive people are in control of many of the institutions, it's the exact opposite. It's the fact that culture is downstream from politics. And again, why? Well, because if everything is based on power politics, then yes, culture and entertainment, which is a part of culture, are going to be based upon what is happening politically, which is what we've been seeing for the last at least 6 or 7 years. Now let's take a look at where this ties together with something very odd. Let's look at what has happened with the Harry Potter situation over the last couple of months. There was, I think about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, an announcement for a new Harry Potter game, and the left, online at the very least, lost their collective minds. Why? Because they thought they had destroyed J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter and everything that was connected with either of those two things. Because J.K. Rowling, of course, thinks that only biologically born women are women, and so she had to be canceled, and so they went on this rampage to do so, and thought they accomplished that outcome, and then did indeed get rid of her and Harry Potter or anything connected with it. But then they went and announced a new game. But the point is, the quote-unquote progressive people thought they canceled her and were successful in doing so because they live in their own echo chambers, in their own silos. And so they had only that message reflected back at them in the places where they would ensure that they heard only their own thoughts back at them. That's what they were getting. Everyone there had agreed that, yeah, she's been canceled. Yeah, no one's ever going to pay any more attention to any of these products ever again. But then, again, the game came out, or the announcement for the game came out, and they realized that, no, I'm sorry, normal society doesn't care what you and the people in your echo chambers are trying to do. They're going to keep producing these products, and they're still going to make money. And again, when they realized they didn't have the power that they originally thought that they did, they just lost their collective minds. Now, take that and turn it up to 111, because that's what you're going to see before the election in 2024. And we've just seen the first salvos of this going to happen within the town hall that CNN put up with Donald Trump. Because your quote-unquote progressive people thought they had canceled Donald Trump, thought they had taken away all of his ability to actually interact with or get in front of or speak to normal Americans. Now, they don't care that he has his rallies with his supporters. That doesn't matter. They don't care that he has Truth Social. It's his own little thing. They don't care about any of that. They make sure that he can't talk to the normal everyday Americans who have an undecided mind. That's the thing. You see, they know that his base is going to be his base and they're not going to change their minds. They know that the people opposed to him vehemently are going to continue to be that way. It's the squishy middle that they're concerned with. It's the squishy middle, the people who are undecided, the swing votes, that they must make sure he cannot speak to. And they thought they took away his ability to speak to anybody in a public forum like that ever again. And they're learning, starting now with that CNN town hall, that no, I'm sorry, he's going to be, most probably, the Republican nominee for president. He's going to be one of two people running for president, basically, who can get the job. They're going to have to allow him to speak on normal corporate media so that the average American who is not ensconced in the political is going to be able to hear him. So again, what does this all have to do with your entertainment? Well, I usually take my cue from comics because it's a very good microcosm of the whole entertainment industry. And also there's very good information on it. So I'm going to pull out one of the interviews that I usually talk about. It is from G. Willow Wilson, and she made that interview right smack dab in the middle of Donald Trump's first stint as president. She, by the way, is the creator of Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, co-creator, that character which you're now seeing on television and will soon see on the movie screen. She gave a big old long interview with the New York Times, which I covered, where she talked about, first of all, why she became a writer to begin with. She said it was to change the world. That is to say, to make it more progressive. That was her entire reason in becoming a writer. But she said, whenever the current administration got into the White House, and she was talking about Donald Trump's administration at that time, and by the way, you see how much they don't even want to use his name. She never mentions his name. She always says the current administration. Why? Because he's like Voldemort. He's like the Dark One from the Wheel of Time. He is he who must not be named publicly, let alone be given a platform to speak to people. But she was saying when that current administration got into the White House, she shifted gears so that the entire reason for her being a writer was to support the people and the leaders who were opposed to that administration. And that is the basis of her writing and therefore the entertainment, quote unquote, entertainment that she was producing. Again, being one of the major writers for Marvel Comics and then later for DC Comics, and has characters which you are seeing now on the television and soon on the movie screen. This is exactly what I mean by, in a progressive society, culture is downstream from politics. That is to say, Politics dictates what these people are going to be turning into entertainment. They're using this entertainment as a platform to counter the message of Donald Trump himself if people are allowed to hear what he has to say. And again, he's going to have to be allowed to speak. And so they're going to, once again, start moving towards using entertainment quite specifically and only, like G. Willow Wilson, for this purpose. Because leading up to the 2016 election, they had no idea that he was going to become president. They thought that was a joke and there was no chance. So they didn't do any of this at that time. It wasn't until he got into office and was allowed to speak to people, that's when they lost their collective minds. But now they're going to have to put all of their effort into making sure that he never gets that position again. And it's going to get crazy within your entertainment. But at the same time, we have another situation at play, which is going to make things very interesting. And what is that situation? Well, it's the situation of Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch. That plays in very much to what we're going to see, once again, over the next year and a half. Why? How? Well, it's not because it's beer. It's not because it's affecting people's lives. It's not because of this specific company or anything like that. It's because this entire thing is now public. People in the normal, everyday public can see that this boycott is taking effect and is severely hurting this company. Now, I'm sure that Disney, as a company, has lost more money than Anheuser-Busch will ever lose on this boycott. But they're able to hide that fact. They're able to obscure the numbers, at the very least, in the way that they present them to their shareholders, etc., etc. It was not public like what is going on right now. But since people can now see this in the public affecting a major corporation, the idea of get woke, go broke is going into people's minds, and the shareholders are going to start to say, or have already started to say, yeah, how's about we not go in that direction? Because the companies themselves, they don't care. They're trying to sell to both sides. They're looking at the country saying, well, half of the country is progressive, let's sell to them, and at the same time sell to the conservative side of the aisle as well. They think they can do that. They think that that's a possibility. They're not actually on a side. They think they can play both sides at the same time and make money hand over fist because half the country wants to go one way and half the country wants to go the other. I really don't think it's half on the progressive side, by the way. I'm just saying that according to how they would think. So again, with the companies thinking they can play both sides, but this happening now in a public way, it's going to show the shareholders that, no, we're going to tell our company, let's go with the people who actually buy our product. So there's that, plus the fact that we are now in a recession. It is a global recession. It does not matter how many times they want to redefine what the word recession means. Yes, we're in a recession. And it's probably only going to get worse. So you have these companies, they're going to be forced to decide one way or the other, especially when the people that are the quote-unquote creatives within the entertainment industry are going to start jumping on this bandwagon of using entertainment, again, like G. Willow Wilson stated, as a vehicle for opposition to their political opponents. Now, I want to jump over to one more thing before tying it all together. And it's social media posts that have been picking up a lot of chatter with specifically people that have to deal with the comic industry. Again, it's a good microcosm for looking at entertainment as a whole. And I usually don't cover social media nonsense, but I'll dip my foot into it right now because there's a pattern I think that is emerging from what is going on. Let's look at three very specific people within the comic industry. You have Heather Antos, who basically was one of the founding members of the idea of progressivism being the basis of comic books. She's an editor, and the company that she was working for started to go under, so like a rat on a sinking ship, she jumped from one ship to another and has moved over to IDW now, and is, like she usually does, digging in like a tick, but at the same time she's going on her social media and going, yeah, you see, I'm doing fine and so are comics. I'm here to stay and we're going to get some things done here. Secondly, Let's look at the post from a writer for Marvel and DC Comics, usually DC Comics, which would be James Tynion IV. Now, he, again, is a heavy progressive. I went over the panel that he participated in for the Writers Guild of America, talking about how you take legacy characters and race swap, gender swap, sexuality swap these characters, even if they've been that way for 80 years. But here's the thing about him as a writer. He can play nice when he thinks his bacon is on the line. And that's what he's trying to do right now. He has all this LOL, so random stuff that he's talking about, and it means absolutely nothing except for the fact that he's putting himself out there saying, look, I'm a neutral party right now. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, you have number 3, which would be T. Franklin. She's basically a diversity hire. She has intersectionality up the wazoo. She's a woman, she's black, she's a part of the alphabet community. I think she's disabled as well, and overweight, and everything else you can think of. She is a writer for various different comics, and she goes around threatening people in the comic industry to get more work. She realizes fully that she can't make any kind of sales, so this is what she does to keep her job. She basically says, metaphorically, if you even think of not hiring me anymore, I'm going to burn the place down. And again, she does this by taking, quite specifically recently, high-profile people within the comic industry and accusing them of things which would get them fired. So what's the point of looking at these 3 people and what they're saying on their social media? Well, the point is, again, power politics. They are all, quote-unquote, heavy progressives. So for them, it all comes down to power politics. And the string that connects these 3 and a whole bunch of others within what they're putting up on social media is right now the fact that what they're doing is they're retreating to their power position and then making a declaration on social media, that is to say, using it in a political way to say, yeah, I'm here, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm secure in this position. Now, each of them is doing it in their own way, but again, this betrays the fact that no, things are not doing well. Therefore, they're retreating to their, again, power position where they believe they have the most leverage in order to control the things around them, in order to continue to keep their jobs because, well, we're in a recession. And on top of that, people are starting to see that, yeah, they can make some effect if they actually push with this whole get woke, go broke attitude. And as I said, the really interesting part is going to be the fact that they're going to be pushed into a corner wherein they're going to have to use their control of entertainment, once again, as opposition to their political opponent, which is Donald Trump. They're either going to be goaded into it by their own internal struggles, or if they try to do the James Tynion IV thing and say, I'm a neutral party right now, and only sticks his head up and says something when he knows he's secure and thinks he's surrounded by everyone who thinks exactly the same as he does, like on that panel with the Writers Guild of America, if they try to take that position, the quote-unquote tolerant, progressive left is going to pile on them and say, you need to say something about this. You need to do something about this. You need to use your position of power in order to serve the political cause. And you're going to see between these 2 opposite poles a really interesting struggle, I think, over the next year and a half. Those poles being, number 1, the quote-unquote progressive left, who are going to be pushing entertainment as far as they possibly can in order to make it a political vehicle, while at the same time, the shareholders pushing the company from the other side saying, no, we're in a recession. No, get woke, go broke. We know this. We've seen this. How's about you not do that? Personally, I think you're going to see entire sections of the entertainment industry starting to collapse under the pressure from these 2 sides. But again, I don't do well predicting the future, nor do I think that that's a bright thing to do. So for my part, again, I'm going to be prudent. What should I do over the next year and a half? For me, as I'm always saying to other people, if you're a creative person, create something. Because as the quote-unquote progressives start to destroy more and more, and again, it's going to ramp up, what we need to do on the other side is create. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start putting out, at the very minimum, 2 graphic novels per year. My graphic novels are usually pretty big, around 70 to 80 pages minimum. The Valiant Heroes is scheduled again to ship at the end of summer, early fall. CROM the Destroyer as a campaign is going to open up on the 4th of July. Loosely, we're probably going to start the Thomas Valiant #2 campaign somewhere around October, November. Besides that, I've been speaking with Iron Age magazine to see if I can get something published there as well. And by the way, go check out their Indiegogo campaign for Iron Age magazine #1 from Anvil Press. Great looking stuff. I've had a couple of contacts with Peter Samedi. I'm going to start to get something ready to publish with Alterna Comics if I possibly can do that. John C. Wright has told me to take my manuscript for my novel and go to Baen Books, see if I can get it published there. I've already started a script for one of my new characters from the Valiant Heroes, which I'm going to try to get published in manga format. I have an idea for a webcomic. I'm getting pretty good at making those less than 1 minute shorts for promotion of my books. Check out the links in the description and the pinned comment for my 2 less than 1 minute CROM the Destroyer trailers. I'm getting pretty good at that, and I actually like to do it. All of these things because I want to create something new. But people are always saying to me, I'm not a creative person, what can I do? Well, quite honestly, the point is that if you want to counter what is going on within the culture, again, cling to those heroic ideals, to those heroic virtues. Because quite honestly, what is this whole quote-unquote progressive movement to begin with? It's a bunch of people who are afraid to live. That's what it is. I saw this as early as the late 80s, early 90s, where you had these parents starting to bubble wrap their children and not allow them to do anything. These kids are not allowed to move out of childhood, and they haven't been able to do so for a couple of generations now, as compared to me, where honestly I should have been dead multiple times over because of the stupid things I did as a kid. Now I know there's some happy medium in there, but the fact is, these other people, they were infantilized from the time they were children and weren't allowed to grow up, so they're afraid of life. Show me a progressive person and I'll show you someone who's afraid to live. And if you want to counter that, once again, and at the same time make their heads explode, just live your life unafraid. And on top of that, be happy about it. Which again brings me back to the whole try not to worry too much about what is going to happen in the future specifically. I was sick for the last couple of weeks, and really, I think it was the best thing in the world for me. Why? Because it takes about 2 weeks to break a habit. And what habit did I break over those 2 weeks? Well, I'm sorry, but I stopped listening to all of these YouTube channels and even conservative YouTube channels who kept on going on about doom and gloom. I don't care anymore. I don't want to listen to that anymore. I've broken that habit. That's a bad habit on the conservative side because, again, if it bleeds, it leads. And so they're going into this mindset of I'm going to present something which is going to make the end of the world look nigh. That is a quote-unquote progressive talking point. I don't care what is going to happen tomorrow. I'm gonna live today and make good decisions. I'm gonna be a prudent person. I don't want to hear all of your doom and gloom. I don't want to hear about how the entire country or world is going to fall apart tomorrow. I got enough on my plate doing what I want to do to live my life today. And again, just do that and you're going to defeat this quote-unquote progressive nonsense. Because if there's one thing that they can't stand nor compete with are people who are not only happy, but who live their lives unafraid. So, if I've given you anything new to think about, hit like, hit the shield in the lower right-hand corner of your screen to subscribe, and leave me a comment. Tell me what you think about all this. And again, don't forget, the links in the description are for my 3 graphic novels, Thomas Valiant, The Valiant Heroes, and the upcoming CROM the Destroyer. So if any of that looks or sounds appealing to you at all, you might want to click on those links in the description and go on over and see if my graphic novels are for you. All right, I'll see you later. Bye.